Hello lovelies, today we're going to talk about conspiracy theories, but because top 5s are really popular and I want people to watch the video, let's start with the top 5 of my 5 favourite conspiracy theories before we look into this a little more deeply. At number 5, it's the flat earth, because honestly I cannot believe in this day and age, when we have planes and rockets and satellites and we're bouncing laser beams off the moon to show that we had been there, that anyone can really still believe in a flat earth. At number 4, ancient aliens, the idea that ancient humanity was thick as pig shit and couldn't manage to do things through dint of great effort, muscle power, slavery and innovation that we've managed to do today. At number 3, it's the Illuminati, the idea that a small group of people that broke away from the Masons is somehow ruling over the entire world just because they decided to start their own secret society with blackjack and hookers. At number 2, it's the patriarchy, a foundational idea of feminism that somehow, somewhere, there's a gang of men in a dark room smoking cigars and doing everything they can to keep the women's down. And at number 1, remaining at number 1 for many years, it's the conspiracy theory that Stephen King killed John Lennon, based solely on a superficial resemblance between the assassin and Stephen King. Conspiracy theories bother me, and they bother me for much the same reason that religions bother me, in that they're completely irrational, they make no sense, they fly in the face of all reason, and yet people live their lives according to them and do things. Stupid or pointless things at the better end, and extreme and dangerous and even murderous things at the other end. Religious fanatics blow themselves up, for example, to further the cause of their faith and to fight their enemies, the disbelievers. Conspiracy theorists will shoot up a pizzeria, or send bombs through the post, or fake anthrax, or real anthrax, or will try and kill people to feed these conspiracy theories, or even shoot themselves in a rocket up into the air to try and debunk the spherical earth. You know, there are extreme behaviours that can be found in religion, in extreme ideological belief and conspiracy theories, and it all appears to be much of a muchness. Right? There seems to be the same sort of underlying thread running through all of it, and I want to understand this. If you spend any time whatsoever talking about conspiracy theories, particularly debunking conspiracy theories online, you stir up a hornet's nest of crazy, obsessive, hate-filled people. You need only go and look at the comments on the video I did about the Jews, or the video I did about the so-called Kalergi plan, and you'll see it. And I've talked about how this affects an information network, you know, like Google search results or like social media posts or whatever, because these people are really committed and make a great deal of effort, and it takes a lot more effort to debunk a claim than it does to make an outrageous claim. This is why we point out things like the Gish Gallop in creationism. You know, they'll spew out a ton of claims and you can never really catch up. It takes a great deal of effort by a lot of people to debunk all of this nonsense, which sometimes appeals to people on a kind of commonsensical basis, but common sense is rarely either common nor sense. But it takes a great deal of effort to debunk all of that. And because you're floundering and trying desperately to debunk one point after another, they can claim victory because you might miss things, or you might not get around to certain things. It's a way of tying you up in debunking their claims rather than making and defending your own claims. So watch for that. The psychology of conspiracy theories is really interesting, and I think again that relates to ideological faith and religious faith as well. My desire to understand conspiracy theories and why people fall into them gives us a clue, because these things are epistemic, which is a posh fancy word that a lot of cod philosophers like to throw around, and it basically just means Upon what basis do you decide what is knowledge? How do you validate a claim of knowledge? All right, if you're like me, you look to science. We have a methodology, we collect evidence, we attempt to contradict it. If we can't, then we believe that knowledge is validated. Other people don't take that same kind of stance, don't understand how science works, how the interplay of law and theory and hypothesis and so on all mingle up. They don't understand the terms. That's the problem of science, right? We should try and use simpler terms that people can grasp. Maybe instead of theory we should say proven hypothesis, for example, or because most people mix up hypothesis and theory. But conspiracy theories, religious claims and so on, they appeal to people who want answers, and they provide an almost paternalistic or maternalistic, a parental claim to authority, right? An unquestioned authority, particularly within religions. But in conspiracy theories as well, you get so-called experts who use the authority that they've been granted to make these crazy kind of claims, like ancient aliens or whatever. But people want to understand in exactly the same way that I want to try and understand conspiracy theories and why people fall into them. They want to know. They have questions. They want answers, and they want answers that they can grasp and understand. And when the real answer is complicated or unsatisfying or doesn't seem to be on the right kind of scale for the event or the ubiquity of something, then people may instinctually reject the actual complicated answer or the disproportionate answer and may instead latch on to something else. I think this is the kind of thing that we see around big, horrible events. The classic example would be 9/11, right? People latched on to that and created a conspiracy theory around it, because the self-image of America and of most Americans was that of an unmatched, well-regarded global power that was unassailable. And this violated all of that. And so the actual answer that a bunch of formerly US-supported religious fanatics living in caves managed to orchestrate multiple hijackings and use them in a way that they hadn't really been used before, to attack the very heart of America. They couldn't accept that, and the only force and power that they believed was capable of attacking America was America itself. And then we're away to the races with the conspiracy theories, which provide a wrong but satisfying answer, in the same way that religion offers wrong but satisfying answers to who are we, where do we come from, what is our purpose, those kind of things. It provides easy, graspable layman's answers to things that may not have answers, or if they do have answers, they have complicated answers that are difficult to grasp for your average guy in the street. So there's an epistemic appeal to conspiracy theories. There's an existential appeal to conspiracy theories. People like to feel safe, they like to feel secure, they like to feel that they have power over their environment and the things that happen to them. And a lot of the time we don't. We are as genitals to the gods. They play with us for their sport. Most of us are helpless in the face of geopolitical, economic, material infrastructure kind of things, natural disasters and so on. And that's not a nice feeling to have, even when you acknowledge and understand that this is the case. It doesn't exactly give you control or power over these things to engage in a conspiracy theory or belief in a deity or that you can appeal to or whatever, but it gives the illusion that you have some kind of control or awareness or whatever else, and that if only you could wake other people up to this, if only you could get them to bow at your altar, to believe in your conspiracy theory, then we could wake up and we could overturn this. So this leads to things like ideas that the HARP array is creating extreme weather conditions, or that climate change, global warming is a conspiracy theory attempting to foist socialism on people or whatever it might be, because you feel so utterly helpless in the face of these kind of overwhelming natural forces or societal forces or whatever, that you grasp onto having some kind of special knowledge that no one else has, that sets you apart, makes you special, makes you different, and gives you the illusion of having some kind of control over your life. And there's such a strong desire for that, for good reason, that's where we tend to end up. There's a social aspect to conspiracy theories as well, so it ties into the existential part. Right? We are one tiny cog in a big machine, which is society, and even our society is just an infinitesimal speck in an enormous cosmos. This is not a nice way to feel, but you can feel accepted and you can feel important and you can feel part of a community if you join in with a conspiracy theory, if you take that on and go with it and study it and spout the right buzzwords, make the right arguments, and so on. It's easy to become quite well regarded, even if you have no qualifications, not much of a charisma to you, and anything like that. You can still succeed as a member of a conspiracy theorist group. And there's a kind of ritual to it, there's a sense of belonging and community to it that other people might get from religion or ideology or fandom or the various identities that they have and that they hold. And this is a self-selected one. I do think something that a lot of atheists like myself, that a lot of skeptics like myself, don't quite grasp is this idea of community. Some people even reject the whole idea of community. If you talk about the atheist community or the skeptic community, someone will pop up and say, oh, we're not a community, we only agree on this. Well, that is the definition of a community, people who share a particular belief or whatever. You don't have to share everything. And I think there is a value in that social connection, but the trouble is that these echo chambers and tribes that we form ourselves into are often defined by in-group, out-group. So you're either with us or against us, and defining an enemy is a really powerful way of bringing people together, and that's where most conspiracy theories dwell, in defining an enemy. The Jews, the Illuminati, white people, the patriarchy, whatever it might be. It's incredibly appealing to people to define yourself by what you're against, even more than what you're for. But conspiracy theories fulfill both. You're for the truth, even if it's not even remotely true, and you're against this them, this faceless other. And once you fall for one conspiracy theory, it seems like you become more susceptible to others, and before you know it, you're not just a 9/11 truther, but you're wearing tin foil on your head because you're afraid that the Bavarian Illuminati is controlling your thoughts via the HARP system, or whatever it might be. It doesn't seem to stop. It keeps going. And once you've latched on to one of these conspiracy theories, you'll fight incredibly hard to retain belief in that conspiracy theory. It is psychologically a very hard thing to give up a belief, an ideal, an idea once you've been convinced into it. If you've even been convinced into it, it might be a purely feeling thing or a societal imposition, which is what we see with religion and why it's hard to break out. Even in religiously liberal countries where there isn't a great deal of enforcement, just upbringing means that most religions have around a 75% retention rate, and most conversions are fairly modest. So most Christians will just shift to another form of Christianity or to another Judeo-Christian sect. It just kind of shows the power that this kind of social psychology and so on has over everybody. To wrap up then, here's how I think it works and why these faith beliefs, shall we say, and in the broadest sense, how they get their hooks into human beings, and how they continue to hold on to human beings. I view these kind of things, conspiracy beliefs, religious beliefs, extreme ideological beliefs, as being a kind of mimetic organism, a bacterium or a parasite, if you will. Only they infect us, our minds, in the way that a computer virus would infect a computer. So it subverts our processing for itself, to propagate itself. Conspiracy theorists want to wake everybody up. Ideological extremists want to force everyone to accept their ideological beliefs. Most religions are evangelical in one way or another, right? It's all about spreading the meme, or the memeplex, which is the term for a larger, more complicated set of memes that works together like an organism. You can look at how these things try to spread, the constant spamming, the endless attempts to play the search algorithm so that the conspiracy theory comes to the top, the accusations of being a shill or whatever, which will no doubt appear in the comments on this video as well as the others. Yeah, and even to the point of killing yourself or killing other people who you see as being a threat to the memeplex. That's how powerful these things can be. Humans are incredibly well adapted and evolved to have a general intelligence, but also contextually to human society, because we are a gregarious and social species. So we're very good at analysing and anticipating the intentions and the actions of other people around us, even though it may not feel like it, because we're equally good at masking and pretending and lying and sneaking and cheating and all the rest of it. So we're in this constant social arms race. But as a result of that, we're also extremely well adapted to read motivation and action, to read intentionality, that someone is behind something, someone is doing something, right? So when we see a pattern, when we see an event, we will tend to ascribe intention to it. And that tendency is where I think religion stems from. There's a storm, so because we are evolved to think in a human context in terms of intentional agents doing things, there's a storm that destroyed our crops. Well, there must be some kind of powerful force behind this that did this on purpose, that I can appeal to, or that I can mollify in some way. So we tend to see patterns even when there aren't patterns, and we tend to see intention even when there isn't intention. And the last psychological key to all this is that I think that we want causes to be commensurate to effects, which is why we can't accept 9/11 being a ragtag band of terrorists, and why instead we think it must be some kind of grand conspiracy by our government. We want the cause to seem the same kind of scale as the effect. And that's just not how the world works. But it's difficult to think consciously and to process these things consciously. We do a lot of things without thinking, instinctually, first reaction, and it takes effort and time and thought to take a step back and think things through. And that's never been popular, and it's never going to be popular. We're basically screwed. Zang.